Hi everyone. This is Sharon, and in this lecture, I'm going to just walk you through an introduction to our wing jewels, which are none other than our butterflies. This is just going to be an introduction talk on what is a butterfly and what all you need to know before you begin butterfly watching, etc. So we'll get started. What is a butterfly? You may have all know butterflies are beautiful insects, butterflies are brightly colored, butterflies gives happiness, etc. etc. So butterflies are obviously beautiful flying insects. They have six joint legs, which means three pairs of legs. Butterflies are bright colored. There are few exceptions. Butterflies have two pairs of wings, a pair of hind wing and a pair of forewing. Butterflies have three body parts. Butterflies have two antennae, and butterflies have compound eyes. Compound eyes are nothing but each single eye which you see on a butterfly are made up of several thousands of visual units which comprises and looks like a single eye. Study of butterflies. So scientific study of butterflies is called Rhopalocera. Both moths and butterflies, they fall under the same order Lepidoptera, which comes from a Greek origin, where lepido means scaly and optera means wings. When you look at a butterfly wing under a microscope, you'll get to see thousands and thousands of small individual scales covering its wings. So that's why it's aptly called as Lepidoptera. And this picture was, I took it from Pinterest, is a picture by David Miller. Scientific classification of butterflies. Butterflies fall under the kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, class Insecta, order Lepidoptera, which comprises both moths and butterflies. Suborder butterflies fall under the suborder Rhopalocera. Let's talk about anatomy and morphology of a butterfly. As I told you earlier, butterflies are made up of a pair of hind wings, a pair of forewings. Body parts is made up of three parts: the head, the thorax, and abdomen, and a pair of antennae. Butterflies have six joint legs, which is three pairs of legs, and compound eyes. The proboscis, which you see here, is one of the main organs of an adult butterfly. This is used for you know taking in nectar. For they use this organ to take in food materials. Next is wing venation. You needn't have to know all the terms right from the beginning, but just the main few terms which you have to know, start learning is I'll let you know. The first thing is apex. Apex is nothing but the topmost region of a hind wing and a forewing is called as apex. The bottom region of forewing and hind wing is called as sternus. The region in between apex and sternus is called as termen. It's the same for hind wing. The place, the area which is stuck with the body is called as base or basal area. There is a small region on both hind wing and forewing, which is called as cell. This area where the bands are available, maybe you can tell area in the middle of forewing and hind wing is called as disc and post-discal band. So these are the few main terms you have to know while doing butterfly watching. Some common differences between butterflies and moths. Though there are a lot of differences put up in the net, there is just one most and easy, reliable key to differentiate between a moth and a butterfly is the shape of its antenna. Butterflies have clubbed or hooked antenna, whereas moth they have fringed or feathered antenna. This is the most reliable difference. The other differences are butterflies sit with their wings wide open or closed. Moths always sit with their wings folded. But there are few exceptions. Butterflies fly during the daytime, moths they fly during the night. Caterpillars of butterflies they always have five pairs of legs, whereas compared to moths, they lack a pair or two. Most of the butterfly caterpillars they are not covered with thick hair. Caterpillars of moths they are covered with thick hair. Butterflies, when compared to moths, they have a thin body. Butterflies are bright colored, moths are dull colored. All these differences, there are few exceptions, except the fact that you can easily differentiate between these two with the shape of its antenna. Distinguish between moths and butterflies. So this is a small collage with both moths and butterfly pictures. So the first picture is a moth because it has a feathered antenna. You needn't have to look at anything else, the shape, the color, etc. Just look at the antennae and you'll be able to distinguish between a butterfly and a moth. This is a butterfly because it has a hooked antenna and also clubbed. This is a moth, it has plain or the tip of the antenna is not clubbed. This is a butterfly, this is a moth, and this is a butterfly. About butterflies. Butterflies comes in various sizes. So with respect to India, the one on the left which you see here is Oriental grass jewel. It is the smallest butterfly you get to see in India. Its size varies from 15 to 22 mm. Just imagine. The one on the right is the southern birdwing. Female of this butterfly is the largest butterfly in India, and southern birdwings are found only in South India. And the size of this butterfly varies from 14 centimeters to 19 centimeters. From common to rare, there are many common butterflies which you get to see in your backyard. You might have noticed small yellow ones frequently. There are a lot of yellow butterflies, but the commonest amongst all is the common grass yellow. The one on the right is called the Nilgiritid. It is one of the rarest butterflies in India, so in South India, and it's only found in South India and also in Sri Lanka. So this cannot be called as an endemic, but this is one of the rare butterflies you get to sight in South India. From dull color to pretty ones. As I told you earlier, there are few exceptions. There are few dull colored butterflies also. This is one of the clear examples. The one on the left is called as chocolate pansy. All that you can see is just brown color with a little bit of orange spots. The one on the right is called fluffy tit. It's, it's one of the prettiest butterflies in India. Though this is quite common in northeast, it's a bit uncommon and rare in South India. And look how pretty this butterfly is. It's a visual treat to watch this butterfly fly around with its long tails. From white to black, name a color, think of a color, whatever color you want to think, just think of that color. There is always a butterfly in this world which has that color, which you might have not even imagined. So butterflies colors they range from white to black. So just for an example, this is the common albatross, which is pure white, and this is the red heron on the right, which mostly consists of black color. So butterflies of the world. Let's talk small information about butterflies of the world. So worldwide, it's said to be that there are approximately 20,000 species of butterflies, and some are yet to be discovered, and some might have become extinct without being discovered also. I can't mention or show you all the 20,000 butterflies, but few astonishing butterflies which are just close to my heart or which I like are the blue doctor, the 8998 butterfly, the Raja Brooks birdwing, and the glasswing butterfly. The wings of this glasswing is so transparent that you get to see things behind the wings of this butterfly. Before jumping into Indian butterflies, let's talk a bit of a history, where it started and how it evolved, etc. So, Indian butterflies started to be studied and formally named only after the publication of Systema Naturae by Carl Linnaeus. You might have all known about Carl Linnaeus. He's the father of modern taxonomy. This book was written and published in 1758. He did all this binomial system of naming species. His works were soon followed by two sets of volumes in which more and more Indian butterfly species were described. One of the student, J.C. Fabricius, who you can see here, and the other by a Dutch entomologist Kramer. Together, these three people described nearly 350 butterfly taxa from our region. And most of the specimens are now in various museums, including the Natural History Museum, London. The golden period of discovery and naming of Indian butterflies started in 1820 with the publication of a catalogue of the Lepidopterus insects in the Museum of Honorary East Indian Company by Thomas Horsfield and Frederick Moore. So these both, they had a very long careers and together covered like 90 years of Indian butterfly studies, describing more than 500 taxa. Interesting part is Frederick Moore alone holds a record of describing more butterflies from the Indian region than anyone else in the history. This golden period peaked in 1840 and 1900, where the majority of the species and subspecies, which we have now, were described. Apart from Moore, there were many other British and European entomologists who studied Indian butterflies. The 1880s saw two of the very important compilation of Indian butterflies. First was a three-volume series on butterflies of India, Burma, and Ceylon by Marshall and D. Nice-Miller, who you can see here. And the second set was a 10-volume series known as Lepidoptera indica. It was started by Frederick Moore, but was then later finished by a person called Swinhoe. In the history of Indian butterflies, this particular 10-volume series by Moore and Swinhoe is considered as the only set of volumes that extensively reviewed and illustrated every known species of, in India at that time. The 1890 and 1910, in between this period, saw a couple of another revolutions in taxonomy. The main thing being application of subspecies names. So by this time, a lot of people recognize that there is a need of subspecies, and they also realize that even similar looking species existing in different regions also possess a difference in color and body size, etc. Many led to this practice, but the extensive use of subspecies names by Christopher and later by W.H. Evans, we can see here, has been surviving till date. Okay, now we'll move into butterflies of India. India is home to over 1,300 butterflies. Really thankful to the various types of habitats we still have. Most of them are from the northeast. Northeast India alone, it hosts more than 800 species of butterflies. And some of the beautiful butterflies of northeast India are yellow gorgon, green dragon tail, poppin jay, and Kaiser Ihen. Kaiser Ihen is supposedly one of the rarest butterflies in India, and a lot of people travel to India, and even from people from South India that have to North India just to sight this butterfly. Let's get deeper into butterflies of Western Ghats. So Western Ghats has approximately like 340 species of butterflies, and some of them are endemic, which means that it cannot be found anywhere else in the world. But there are few exceptions. Few butterflies can well be found in Sri Lanka. And some of the endemics are Nilgiri clouded yellow, Tamil oak blue, Tamil cat's eye, Travancore tawny ace. Let's get into butterfly families. There are 6 families of butterflies. The first one is Papilionidae, second one is Pieridae, third one is Nymphalidae, fourth one is Lycanidae, fifth one is Hesperidae, and sixth one is Rheodinidae. At first, it will be difficult for you to pronounce these names, but once you start butterflying and once you differentiate which butterflies falls under which family, it's quite easy to memorize these names. If these names are difficult, you can follow the alternate names which I have mentioned here. Papilionidae is otherwise called as swallowtails. Pieridae is otherwise called as whites and yellows. Nymphalidae is otherwise called as brush-footed. Lycanidae is otherwise called as blues. Hesperidae is also called as skippers, and Rheodinidae is also called as metal mugs. We'll dig deeper into each family in the coming slides. The first family is Papilionidae, also called as swallowtails. It got its name because most of the butterflies under this family, they have tail. So these tail, which you can see here, it resembles the bird swallow. So swallow has this type of tails. So this is how this family got its name. Often the butterflies under this family, they have tails on their hind wings, and they're the largest among the other families in size. So all the big butterflies which you get to see, they fall under this family. Next is the Pieridae. So this family is also otherwise called as whites and yellows. So butterflies under this family are mostly white, yellow, or orange, and also some with red and black markings. So some examples are crimson tip, cyc, common immigrant, and the common Jezebel. The next family is Nymphalidae, which is also called as brush-footed because though all butterflies they have three pairs of legs, this particular family they lack a pair of legs, which means that they do have six legs, but the front legs are too shortened and they possess a brush-like structure. So that's why this family is otherwise called as brush-footed butterflies. So they usually lack four legs and they often appear four-legged. And most of the butterflies under this family are bright colored. Some of the examples are blue pansy, commander, lemon pansy, and black raja. The next family is Lycanidae. It's one of the interesting families. And these are the small butterflies, mostly with the blue colored upper wings. That's how they got its alternate name called as blues. And some of them, they have false eye spots and tails which act as decoys. Uh, they're used as defense mechanisms to escape predators. Obviously, the smallest butterfly, the Oriental grastual, it belongs to this family. So some of the examples are orchid tit, angle pierrot, common imperial, and silver streak blue. There's one other interesting uh, feature of this family. I'll discuss that about that in the coming slides. The next family is Hesperidae. Often people mistaken this as moths, but these are butterflies. These are very small butterflies and are very fast flyers. That's how they got its name, skippers. There are two types of skippers, one with their wings always open and the ones with their wings always closed. Some examples are Indian ace, tricolored pied flat, yellow-based tree flitter, and water snowflake. The last family is Rheodinidae. They're often called as metal mugs because they have metallic markings on their wings. Unfortunately, not many butterflies in India they have these metal markings, but these obviously fall under this family. And in South India, there are only two butterflies from this family, which you get to see. One is the plum judy, which I have mentioned here. The other one is double-banded judy. Both of these butterflies look alike, except for difference between differences in the markings. The other butterflies which you can sight in North and Northeast India from this family are Himalayan striped punch, Sikkim spot judy, Columbian, and many other butterflies. Now we have talked about different families of butterflies. Let's get deeper into the life cycle and the life forms. Yeah, so life cycle of a butterfly. So these insects, they have a typical four-stage life cycle. They have a complete metamorphosis, egg, larva, pupa, and adult butterfly. Larva is otherwise called as caterpillars. So this is a life cycle of common mormon, which I did at my home a few couple of years back. On the top left, you can see the courtship behavior. I'll talk about this behavior in the future slides where I'll be telling about the behaviors. Here you can see female laying her egg. This is the egg and the caterpillar comes out. And caterpillars, they undergo several molting. And once it reaches its highest stage, it finds a suitable place to pupate itself. And it becomes a pupa. And based on each butterfly, depends on each butterfly. And after a few days, an adult butterfly emerges. Eggs from each family. So this is just an example. Not all butterfly eggs from family needs look the same. I just took an egg from each family just for an example perspective. So once the eggs are fertilized after mating, the butterflies lay eggs on a specific plant. So all butterflies they don't simply lay eggs on whatever plants they see. So butterflies they smell using their legs and they sense using their antenna and they keep on flying towards all the plants and they choose a particular plant and once they decide that this is a suitable plant and this is a particular plant uh, which can be eaten by its offsprings, it starts laying its eggs. So as I mentioned here, every butterfly has a select larval house plant on which the eggs are laid. And these are some of the examples of eggs from each family. This is common mormon, this is dark grass blue, this is grass yellow, this is palm red eye, and this is common sailor. First meal of larva. So what do you think the caterpillar which has just emerged from the egg would start eating? So ready to emerge caterpillars open the eggshell from within using its jaws. So once they are out, some caterpillars, I repeat again, only some caterpillars, not all caterpillars eat their own eggshell, but some caterpillars eat their own eggshell because it's very nutrient rich, it's rich in proteins. And all caterpillars, they have jaws because it is used to feed. They use that to feed in, leaves, flowers, etc. Again, these are just an example from each family. These are the caterpillars. And why I had mentioned this caterpillar along with the insects for this particular family is that lichen butterfly caterpillars, they have this special relationship with the ants. I'll discuss that in the coming slides. So these are some of the examples from each family. This is common mormon, this is immigrant, this is common crow, this is yellow-based tree flitter, this is Judy, this is dark grass blue. Food for larva. You might have all known that caterpillars only feed on leaves, but it's not the case. Some larvae of butterflies, they feed on flowers. Some caterpillars, they feed on fresh matured leaves of their host plant. Some feed on fruits, like the one you see here. It's a caterpillar of common Goa blue. It feeds on fruits like guava, pomegranate, and some butterflies, they feed on fig too. And the one on the bottom left is a caterpillar of ape fly. It is one of the interesting caterpillar and also one of the good examples of carnivorous caterpillar. So what this ape fly does is it searches for mealybugs. You might have all seen the small white insects infecting your hibiscus tree or guava tree, etc. So these butterflies, they come in search of these mealybugs and they lay eggs on these insects. So once the caterpillar comes out, they start feeding on these mealybugs and they become carnivorous. So this is a perfect example of carnivorous butterfly, and this is the early stage of a butterfly called ape fly. This again is an example of each butterfly from each family. Common mormon, Jezebel, Tawny coaster, striped pierrot, double-banded Judy, brown owl. Next is butterfly eclosion. This is how a butterfly comes out of a pupa. So this is an aged pupa, which means that you get to see the butterfly wing patterns and also the head structure once the pupa ages. So butterfly comes out using its head and it slowly comes out, and once it comes out fully, its abdomen is huge because it's yet to secrete out waste fluids, and its wings are so shrunk because it is just new and it has to pump its blood and fluid through its wings. So it takes a couple of hours until the butterfly dries its wings, and once it's fully dried, once it fully pumps its blood through the veins of its wings, it makes its first flight. Diet of butterflies. Most of you people might have known that butterflies only feed on flowers for nectaring, etc. But it's not the case. A lot of butterflies love bird droppings. A lot of butterflies love animal scat. Even human excreta, human urine. A lot of butterflies are attracted, and some butterflies, they're attracted towards dead meat like crab, snake, or whatever for that matter. Some butterflies like milkweed butterflies, they love alkaloid plants, and most of the butterflies, they feed on flowers for nectar, and some of the butterflies, they love feeding on ripe fruits, and these are such examples. The next is sexual dimorphism. What is a sexual dimorphism? Sexual dimorphism is nothing but characteristics that differentiate between males and females of a particular species. So on the top left is a striped tiger. You can all see that this small circular patch. This is actually a scent pouch which is absent in female striped tiger. So by this you can differentiate between a male and female striped tiger because both look alike. And the one here is a common crow male. There is the small line here. I'm not sure how many of you can see. Only males have this brand. So by looking at this, you can differentiate between whether it's a male or female. So hair pencils. Hair pencils are used to release pheromones and scent just to stimulate females. So hair pencils, they are not visible in females. Only male possess this characteristic. So by this, you can differentiate between a male and a female. The other thing is it's not a reliable key, but this has supported, a lot of cases. The size of the abdomen. If the butterfly is both male and female, if you are unable to look at its open wings, or if both butterflies are same looking, you can look at the size of the abdomen. The larger the size, it's a female. The narrower or smaller size, it's a male. The next thing is color variation, though the butterflies look alike. Males are always brightly colored and they possess markings well compared to the females. So as you can see here, this is a monkey puzzle butterfly. The left is a male and the right is a female. Females are dull colored and they possess a lot of white patches. The last one is complete color variations, where both males and females they look totally different, and it's very easy for you to distinguish between a male and a female. The next one is seasonal forms. There are two seasonal forms. One is the dry season form, and the other one is wet season form. There are these forms, though they are genetically identical. Some seasonal forms are so different that they may be mistaken as a completely different species. So on the left here is a collage of lesser gull. This is a dry season form of lesser gull, and this is a wet season form of lesser gull. And on the right is this is a wet season form of plains cupid, and this is a dry season form of plains cupid. So the difference between dry season form and wet season form is dry season form is smaller compared to wet season form, and dry season form markings on dry season form are not very prominent and they're very very dull compared to the wet season form. And also the size differs. Wet season form looks bigger compared to the dry season form. So you can see the difference in this collage. The next thing is aberration. Aberration happens when there is, extreme weather conditions and temperature changes when the butterflies are in pupal stage. Aberrations are not very common to sight. They are a bit uncommon and also rare to sight aberrations. And some are, as a result of physical injury during their pupal stages, they appear to be deformed. Like the ones you see here. This is a forget me not. I'm not sure how many of you ID this as forget me not. This is an aberration, and this is a common silver line, and this is common Piero, and this is common Jezebel. So the normal forms won't look the same, and these are just aberrations, which might look like a completely different species, but these are the normal ones. The next interesting thing is the common behaviors. The first one is courtship, the second is mating, followed by egg laying, hill topping, mud puddling, basking, and mimicry. We'll talk about these in the coming slides. The first one is courtship. You might have seen this picture in the life cycle slide. So the top one is a male and the bottom here is the female. So male butterflies, they actively search for females. So they engage in this behavior to find a suitable mate by impressing each female. So they don't do this behavior for a particular female. They do this behavior and they fly around all the females until a female accepts him as her suitable mate. So male, they release pheromones and tries to stimulate each female. In other words, it's a kind of dating for, in the world of butterflies. Next is mating. Obviously, butterflies mate for reproduction. They mate facing in opposite direction with their abdomens attached. This is an example of pea blue butterfly mating. The next interesting thing is egg laying. As I told you, all butterflies, they don't simply lay egg on all the plants. They have select larval host plants to lay egg. So most butterflies, they have a unique choice of plants. So females, they go search these plants to lay eggs. And eggs are often laid singly, and some butterflies, they lay egg in clusters, or also some butterflies, they lay eggs one top of the other. Even though that's an interesting thing to see. The next thing is hill topping patrolling. So male butterflies, they really have to work hard in finding their mate because it's not that easy. You need to, find a suitable female to mate. So these males, they often engage in flying to top of a canopy, and it's just a very peculiar place where they get a clear view to find their mate. And also they engage in the territorial fight by when the intruding males come of the same species or different species. Patrolling is nothing but they roam around from top to bottom just to ensure that there are no intruding males and they get a clear view of females flying around the area. The next thing is mud puddling. Intake of salts from wet soil is called mud puddling. Often, newly hatched males they engage in this behavior in large numbers in order to take in salts that are very essential in producing healthy eggs. It didn't have to be newly hatched males, but most of the time, 99% of the times, only males engage in this type of behavior just to take in salts. And these nutrients they are passed on to females during mating. So this is a congregation, and you can see these are all the male butterflies engaging in this mud puddling behavior. The next behavior is basking. So butterflies require a suitable temperature which makes them to fly. So butterflies they regulate their temperature based on the surrounding temperature because they're cold-blooded animals, and butterflies get energy to fly only after warming up their body temperature. So what these butterflies does is, once the sunlight comes out, they choose a particular spot where the sunlight is harsh, and they start opening their wings to warm up their body temperature. So once they get the suitable temperature, they start flying around. They can also lower their body temperature by regulating, and they do this by going underneath the leaf or sitting under the shady tree, etc. The next interesting behavior is the mimicry. Mimicry is nothing but an action to imitate something or someone else is called mimicry. There are these two types of mimicry, Mullerian and Batesian mimicry. These are named after uh, two scientists, Muller and Betz. And uh, I'll first talk about Batesian mimicry. So palatable ones are nothing but edible ones. Literally cheat the predators by false copying the non-edible ones, which is otherwise called as unpalatable ones. So the pictures which you can see here are examples of Batesian mimicry. The one on the top left is plain tiger, which is a poisonous butterfly for predator, and the one on the top right is a female of Danadic fly. It mimics the plain tiger because plain tiger is a non-edible species by the predators because it feeds on milkweed plants and it is poisonous for the predators. So such butterflies, the models, they mimic these butterflies just to escape from predators. It not only mimics the wing pattern, some butterflies they also mimic uh, the unpalatable species flight pattern also. The one on the bottom is the, I told you earlier, this is the common mormon. This is the female of common mormon, and the one on the bottom left is a crimson rose. You can see here these both mimic. Uh, the common mormon female mimics crimson rose just to escape from predators. This is the example of Batesian mimicry. Mullerian mimicry, I'll tell you about that in the coming slides. But it's nothing but all the members of a group they resemble each other, they look alike, and everything. I mean, every butterfly under the family they are all poisonous. So they just help each other, in escaping from the predators. Migration. Movement from one region to another is called as migration. Butterflies migrate due to several factors like getting rid of cold temperature, survival of the fittest, search of food source due to climate change, etc. Just like birds and other wild animals, butterflies do migrate. And in South India, I'm not very sure about North India and other parts of India, but in South India, large-scale migration happen, and species like crows, blue tigers, dark blue tigers, and the albatrosses they travel across the Ghats. So these are names of butterflies. You needn't have to confuse yourself with the bird name or animal name, etc. So it has been studied every year that during April May, these species like the crows and blue tigers they travel from Western Ghats to Eastern Ghats, and in return, during September October, they migrate back to Western Ghats from Eastern Ghats. So these are the species which I told you. This is a double-banded crow. This is a common crow. This is a dark blue tiger. This is a blue tiger, and this is the common albatross. And I had told you about Mullerian mimicry. So there are lots of types of blue tigers, and there are a lot of crows. So they all look alike, but they're different species. And all these butterflies uh, fall under the same family, and they look alike, and they're all poisonous too. So this is a clear example of Mullerian mimicry. Why I had mentioned crimson rose here is that crimson rose has been studied or said to migrate, and we have also seen lot and hundreds of crimson roses migrating from the eastern coast of southern tip and the eastern coast of India, the Tamil Nadu, towards Sri Lanka. Hundreds of butterflies migrate, and we are still unsure that whether it's a two-way migration or a one-way migration. But we have a lot of people, including me, have cited that hundreds of these butterflies they migrate along the coast and also across the ocean towards Sri Lanka. Coming back to the migration, the famous migrant butterflies, the monarch butterflies, they're known to be the largest migrant in the world, where they travel more than approximately 4,000 kilometers across Canada, northern US, towards Mexico. So on the right, you can see here it's mentioned monarch butterflies covering a tree in Mexico during their annual migration. So it's one of the visual treat to watch monarch butterflies migration. Um, in the daytime these butterflies they engage in a lot of activities that like migrating, search of food, mating, etc., so they need some rest. So in between the course of migration they choose a particular spot and rest in large numbers. It is called as roosting. The last and the next interesting migration is migrating butterfly is the painted lady. So these butterflies they are known to migrate from Europe to northern Africa. They also visit India. So they migrate independent of seasons and climatic variations. And a couple of interesting facts about this butterfly is they're world's most widely distributed butterfly. They are not found in Australia and Antarctica and found and recorded in most of the other continents. Next is predators of butterflies. What is a predator? The one that naturally preys on others is called a predator. And what all do you think are natural predators for butterflies? I'll just give just a 1 minute or 2 minute, 2 minutes. You can just think through. And all stages of butterflies are attacked by predators. Like eggs are being attacked, caterpillars are being attacked, pupas are being attacked, and even adult butterflies are hugely attacked. So I'm sure you might have thought about few natural predators of butterflies which has come to your mind. So I'll just walk through. Birds are a huge predator for butterflies. Jumping spider is a good predator for butterflies. All the lichenid butterflies and also the nymphalid butterflies are being attacked. Lynx spider is a huge predator for butterfly. And monkeys. I'm not sure if you know that monkeys are big predators for butterflies, but this is one interesting feature or interesting thing I personally witnessed in my hometown where we were documenting this annual migration where hundreds and hundreds of immigrants were there mud puddling in a hot spot in my place. So these monkeys they just came in from nowhere. They never disturbed these butterflies. They just came slowly. They sat near the mud puddling spot, and they just bit the mud. I mean, they just bit the butterflies doing mud puddling activity. So they took 20 butterflies in each hand. They just ran away and they sat on a rock like this and they started feeding on butterflies. This is the first time, and a lot of my friends, when I shared this with a lot of my friends, even they were shocked. So monkeys, even they are the predators for butterflies. Dragonflies are a predator. Praying mantis, a lot of praying mantis are predators. And frogs, at times, they are also predators for butterflies. And all kinds of lizards, they are predators for butterflies. The next thing is defense protective mechanisms. So the survival rate of butterflies is not that great. So they have to possess all these, mechanisms just to escape from predators. So the leftmost picture which you can see here is common mime. It's a pupa of common mime. It resembles and mimics dried twig. So there's less chance for you guys to sight this pupa in the wild because it's well camouflaged and it just looks like a broken twig. So by this, it escapes from predators. So this is a butterfly called blue oak leaf. It resembles dry leaf, and there's 0% chance that you will be able to witness this butterfly in the wild because it's well camouflaged, and yeah, it resembles a dry leaf. And only when it flies and sits somewhere else, you'll get to see this butterfly because the open wing is very pretty and it's blue in color. This is The caterpillar of red spot, and it's well camouflaged with its host plant stem, which is red color, so that it can escape predators. So this green caterpillar is a caterpillar of Indian sunbeam. Uh, it's an early stage of butterfly, which I showed you in the basking slide, the bright orange one. So you can all see this fan-like structure organ this butterfly released. So there are these butterflies, even the papillonid family butterflies. They release this organ. They show off, and through this organ they release pungent smell, just in case if they feel that they're threatened or being attacked by the predators. And some caterpillars, which you can see here, they roll themselves and they hide themselves inside the leaf. By this, they escape predators. And the rightmost top is the slate flash butterfly. As I told you, most of the lichenid butterflies, they possess decoy, false eye spots, and false tails. I mean, false antenna. So this is the real eye, and this is the real antenna, and this is the false spot which acts as false eyes, and these are the tails which act as false antenna. So these tails, they keep on moving just to distract the predators. So if the predators, they want to attack this butterfly, they just attack this area, thinking that this is the main attacking spot, and eventually the butterfly escapes. The one on the bottom is the peacock pansy butterfly. As you can all see here, this is they have huge eye spots, which which helps in fooling the predators, and predators first attack this area, and eventually the butterflies can escape the predators. Okay, so the next thing is ecological relationship of a butterfly. Butterflies have good relationship with flowers and ants. Flowers for nectaring and also pollination. Butterflies and moths are very good pollinators next to bees. So relationship between a butterfly and flower is just nectaring and for pollination. Regarding ants, not all butterflies in all families has a good relationship with ants. But in lichenid butterflies, it's very common that their early stage caterpillars they secrete sweet fluid to the ants. I'm not sure how many of you can see. This caterpillar has been secreting sweet fluid from an organ here. This ant, it's coming to feed on this sweet fluid. So in return, what these ants does is these ants they protect these caterpillars from the natural enemy. So it's one of the interesting phenomena that the lichenid butterflies has a good relationship with the ants. So importance of butterflies. Butterflies are best indicators of environmental quality. Educational value is nothing but life cycle transformation is one of the wonders in nature. So if you want to study butterflies, more butterflies, if you want to make this as an interesting one, please start doing life cycle, because by doing life cycle you get to learn a lot and lot on butterflies. Scientific value, all the scientists and researchers, they have been constantly studying conservation, genetics, migration, subspecies identification, mimicry, and also the population diversity in each area. Ecosystem value, as I said, areas rich in butterflies are always said to be a healthy ecosystem. If there is a particular place where there is less than two butterfly, or where there are no butterflies, the environment is supposed to be very bad, and they're important part of the food chain and are preyed for many predators. I showed you a lot of predators in the previous slides. And as I said, they're most valuable pollinators next to bees. Economic value, butterfly watching and tourism. I'm sure it's not that famous in our country compared to other countries like Singapore, Malaysia, UK, Sri Lanka, and a lot more other countries, Hong Kong, etc. And it's been picking up in our country. There are a lot of butterfly parks being set up, and a lot of people are visiting these parks. And there are a lot of butterfly watchers who are emerging up lately. Butterfly watching is a de-stressing activity. It gives you more happiness, and it's a peaceful hobby to take up. Threats for butterflies. Obviously, deforestation and habitat loss will be included for all the threats, wildlife threats, but it also affects butterflies too. One of the huge threats for butterflies is grazing. So not all butterflies they lay eggs on high canopies and big plants, etc. Most of the butterflies they lay egg in grasses and small plants. So once grazing happens, all these eggs and caterpillars they just get destroyed. One of the most huge threat for butterflies is illegal butterfly trade. Lot of rare butterflies even in North India and even in Western Ghats. I've heard that lot of scheduled species and lot of endemic ones, rare ones are being collected illegally and they're being traded. So you might ask me that why are butterflies being traded? A lot of useless activities. Butterflies are being traded for collection and just to boast yourself that you have this butterfly in your collection. And some butterfly wings are so pretty that these butterflies wings they are used in ornaments like earrings, etc. etc. There are a lot of purposes and there are a lot of buyers for these too. Butterflies FAQs. Are butterflies harmful to humans? No, they are not harmful to humans, unless unless you are very unless you disturb them or you know they are never harmful to humans. But I don't want any person to just catch butterflies or harm them uh, for any given matter. So how do butterflies get colors? So there are these both ways. One is pigmenty and the other one is structural. So as I told you, the early stages of butterflies they feed on larval host plants, and these plants they have chemical pigments and melanins, and they are passed on to the adult stage. So some colors they are obtained from its host plants, and there are also structural colors that you get to see iridescence also. So these are formed from the individual scales which are there in the butterfly wings, and they possess unique colors. And some colors are viewed when you tilt a butterfly, or maybe when you look at a butterfly from a different angle. Uh, Different colors shows up. So that's because of these structural colors. How many eggs does a butterfly lay? We can't just tell a particular number, but it lays more than 500 to 1,000 eggs. But among them, just only a few survive and reach adulthood because rest are all being predated. Lifespan of a butterfly. Butterflies are short-lived insects. Blues live up to just a few weeks, and also some skippers. But butterflies, like the migrating ones and few large butterflies, they are said to be, they can live up to 8 to 10 months if they are not being predated. Largest and smallest in India, as I told you, southern birdwing is the largest, and the oriental grass jewel is the smallest. Largest in the world, Queen Alexandra's birdwing. It is like 25 centimeters in length. Just imagine. And which country has the highest number of butterflies? Peru. It has over 3,700 species of butterflies. And Peru alone holds 20% of the world's butterfly population. Peru is in South America. And how do butterfly identify LHPs? LHPs are nothing but local host plants. So, as I told you earlier, they have sensory organs on their legs. Female butterflies, they checks uh, leaves of all the plants before she lays her eggs. Butterfly sense and smell through their legs. How did the word butterfly come? This is one of the interesting question, although origin is still unknown. And based on expert talks and a lot of my friends and also reading a lot of articles, one of the interesting stories and interesting thing and the most popular one is that it may have come from the butter yellow color of common European butterflies, where they might have named it as butter colored flies, which eventually turned out to be called as butterfly. Some examples of these European butterflies are brimstones. You can Google. Brimstones are they're found in England, the most common, and they possess a butter-like color. Butterfly watching as a hobby: where to watch, when to watch, how to conserve, what not to do while watching, how to attract butterflies, where to watch. You didn't have to go to a specific forest to watch butterflies, or you didn't have to take permission to visit a peculiar place to watch butterflies. Just sit at home, just observe what all butterflies are coming to your home. and you can document butterflies in your surroundings, etc. When to watch butterflies? Butterflies you can watch throughout the day, but it's very active only during the daytime after the sun rises. Like skippers are very active before the sunrise. Like I mean, in the dawn, like 6:30, 7, etc. Most of the butterflies are very active in between 7 to 10 or 8 to 10, and they're also quite active during the evening time, like 3 to 6 or 4 to 6, etc. And how to, yeah, before that, what not to do while watching. Never catch a butterfly with its wings, never harm the butterflies, never disturb them. While you're watching butterflies, always wear dull colored clothes. It's not only for butterflies, even nature watch for the matter. Never wear bright colored clothes. Always wear dull colored clothes or camouflage clothes like black, gray, dark brown, green, dark blue, etc. Because it doesn't disturb butterflies. You need lot of patience to go close to a butterfly and observe, and also photographs. How to conserve and attract butterflies? You didn't have to specifically do anything to help in conservation. All you need to do as a citizen scientist is that don't spoil the already the habitat which is already there in your surrounding. Even if you want to construct something, construct a building, of course, just don't uproot all the plants. Just don't destroy, or just don't allow anybody else to destroy the environment to the scratch. Leave a bit of natural habitat and ecosystem as it is. How to attract butterflies? Yeah, there are, as I told you earlier, there are larval host plants and there are nectar plants, and these are very few basic and just for an example perspective, I have mentioned few larval host plants. If you have ornamental palm, it attracts palm fly or palm bark butterfly, and Nerium oleander is also a nectar plant, but it's a good host plant for common crow butterfly. And ginger lily or turmeric plant, it attracts grass demon butterfly. And bottom two are the most common host plants which everyone suggests. This is the curry leaf and lemon plant. These are used as a host plant for blue mormon, common mormon, line butterfly, etc. You can try planting these butterflies so that if these three butterflies are there in your surroundings, they get attracted to these plants and they come to lay their eggs. Some common nectar plants. Ixora. Ixora is also a host plant for monkey puzzle, but even this good nectar plant for butterfly. Heliotropium is a good nectaring plant. Clerodendron is a good nectaring plant. Stachytarpata indica is a good nectaring plant. Cosmos is a good nectaring plant for all the butterflies. And even Tradax. Tradax is nothing but a small white flower which grows in the wild. You may have also seen in your backyard or surrounding. Even that's a good that's a good nectar plant for butterflies. The last important thing which I want to tell you all is there is this one person. There was this Norwegian photographer called Kjell Sandwood. He made this butterfly, alphabet collage collection. Entire alphabets and numbers are formed. Are found in the wings of butterflies. These spectacular shapes and patterns were observed by Kelvin Sandberg, and he made this collage. You can see right from A to Z and 1 to 0. All these are letters and numbers which he observed in the butterfly wings. So I would say maybe not only butterflies, I think some of them are from moths also. So I would say maybe as a tribute to him, or maybe I can say I got inspired from this collage. I did create a collage with my, using my pictures of butterflies, and I found a collage of my name. I was able to find SHARN, etc. And I also found another collage which says love. So L, I took it from Common Go Blue. O, I took it from Blue Pansy. V, I took it from Common Short Silver Line. E, I took it from Spot Swatting. So bottom line is that go fall in love with butterflies. I know that millions and millions of people are back and behind of birds and big mammals. It's not wrong, but there has been too much of hype of late, and people are blindly going behind that. There are lot of lesser known fauna like butterflies, and there are a lot of stuffs like odonates, ants, beetles, etc., etc. These are even more fascinating and even more interesting compared to your birds and big mammals. Even these are wildlife, not only big animals, big mammals and birds, not just wildlife alone. So yeah, just go fall in love with butterflies. And disclaimer: these are some of the information I took from a few papers, and I'm very thankful to some of my friends who shared their pictures. And some reference images were taken from Google, Pinterest, and iPhone butterflies, etc. And this is the last before slide. Some butterfly books to start with, I would recommend this. If you want to know about all the butterflies of India, this is the best book written by Isaac Hemberg. Uh, it's a BNHS publication. It's called as Butterflies of India. And if you want to know and study extensively about Western Ghats butterflies, you need to get this book, Butterflies of Western Ghats. It's like an encyclopedia. And I would say this is one of the best books on butterflies India has ever seen. So there are less copies right now. So if you want, you can contact me, and I'll help you in getting this book. This book has all the pictures of all the early stages and also adult stages of Western Ghat butterflies, and it also mentions host plants and nectar plants of butterflies, and even identification keys, etc., etc. It has everything you want to know. So there are these other books like Butterflies of India, written by Peter Smith, and Oxford has released Butterflies of India, and there is the South Indian Butterflies book released by South Indian authors like T.N.A. Perumal, Jairam, Gunatilaga, sir, etc. And leftmost is an e-book written by Dr. Raju Kasambe, and he's the deputy director of education in BNHS. It is on Butterflies of Western Ghats. It's an e-book. You can contact me, or you can also contact Raju sir for if you want to get this PDF. So yeah, we have come to the end of the session, end of this lecture, and thank you on behalf of my club, the Professor and Ordinator Association of Rajapalyam. And this is our Instagram handle, Ro Rajapalyam. You can have a look, and if you like, you can follow us. And this is our new YouTube channel. Just search Road Conclave in YouTube. We have just started a couple of weeks back, and all the sessions and events which we conduct will be uploaded in our channel. And this is my WhatsApp number. So if you want to contact uh, us regarding butterflies, or anything regarding this field, please feel free to contact me, and contact us. Even you can contact us in Instagram. We'll be very happy to answer you, and also help you in all ways. Thank you, everyone, and I'm sure you might have enjoyed the basic, basic skeleton of butterflies, and I'm sure you'll take up butterflying as your next hobby. Thank you.